Current events quiz. No, I'm kidding. Current events talk a little bit here. Um, I'm going to give my personal opinions on some of the things that's been going on. Um, the Cohen raid. Personally, I think the FBI and the DOJ overstepped a little bit. This is a man who was participating in the investigation, who was offering to do things to cooperate. And the DOJ decided they needed to raid his office at his home and collect all of this client attorney privileged information. Now, the best I can tell, the collecting of that information is going to become an issue. At what point we're supposed to be, attorney-client privilege, doctor-patient privilege, is supposed to be stuff that cannot be made public without the client or the patient's approval. Best I know, period, it is not, a court cannot make it public without the patient or client's approval. This right here is completely BS. They have raided his office, they raided his home, they took all of this information, and any of it can now be public. Now, mind you, it's under the guise of determining whether or not he paid a porn star $130,000 to keep her mouth shut. But what I see is if it was just about that, then why not just ask him for documents and stuff? Now, if he refused to give those documents, I can kind of understand a little bit of that, if that's what they're looking for, just those documents. But when you take all of his stuff, 20 years worth of it, now you're getting into stuff that he's deviled with or he's been involved with that has absolutely, and of course we all understand this is all about President Trump and trying to find something to get on him about. Now the problem is, what he did prior to becoming president has no effect. I know the Dems are just chomping at the bits to try to impeach him. And there will be a lot of references back to Clinton. So, well, Clinton had all these charges on him before he was elected too, but he was impeached. Yeah, his impeachment had nothing to do with all the stuff he did before he became president. But now the issue with that stuff is he did it all while he was an elected official as the governor of the state of Arkansas. That's a difference. Anything that President Trump might have done prior to becoming a president, he was a private businessman. It's of no concern of the investigation into his presidency. Nor is it a validation of impeachment. President Clinton's impeachment was for lying under oath as a president to the FBI. Now, we also see how that worked with James Comey and his book coming out. And James Comey just basically come right out, in my opinion, if you listen to what he says, he was on the dole. And I keep hearing all this horse manure. James Comey's a Republican. He was appointed by a Republican. Robert Mueller's a Republican. Well, you can say you're a Republican. How many Republicans during the presidential primaries and the presidential race came out and supported Hillary Clinton because they didn't like President Trump? You had Republicans voting for Hillary Clinton because they didn't like Donald J. Trump personally. So don't give me the horse manure about how Mueller and Comey and all these other knuckleheads are Republicans. when they're actually following and doing the Democrats' bid. Okay? Just because they're Republicans doesn't mean that they're acting like one. This is a Democrat freaking lynch mob out there trying to find something to hang him with. And they don't care how far back they go. Now, this is the problem. If they're going to impeach him, it has to be for something he did illegally as the president. The time period for impeachment begins January 20th, 2017. Anything prior to that is not an impeachable offense. Sorry. Alright? So, that being said, I really do, and I'm like President Trump and several other people I've heard mention, really seriously concerned about the overstepping of the DOJ and the FBI in raiding a lawyer's office and taking out information that has nothing to do with President Trump's presidency, or even for the fact of having anything to do with his campaign for presidency. For the next subject, talk a little bit about Syria. I got asked a question last week. I was the Chronicle Telegram up in Elyria, Ohio. I was up there interviewing, and they asked me some questions in Syria. Now they didn't ask me about the bombing because it happened afterwards, but everybody's throwing a fit because President Trump used the mission complete, or mission accomplished, and it was. And you have the Democrats and some liberal-leaning Republicans in Congress. He should have consulted us first. No, he didn't. He doesn't have to. Okay? President Obama didn't have to. So why does President Trump have to? Okay? But the thing about it is, well, what's our end strategy? Well, the end strategy, the whole focus of that raid was the degradation and destruction of Syria's chemical weapons capabilities. And when President Trump came out and said mission accomplished, well, it was. They destroyed the facilities that they wanted to destroy. What's not accomplished about that? The mission was the destruction of these complexes. Were those complexes destroyed? Yes. Therefore, mission accomplished. Is there something you can't wrap your head around about that? If your mission was to go out and pick apples off the apple tree and get a bucket full, when you came back in a house with a bucket full of apples, is your mission accomplished? Yes. Therefore, you can say mission accomplished. Quit trying to freaking make a mountain out of a molehill. Now, on to the subjects with what I was asked about the Telegraph. They asked me about with North Korea. Did I think President Trump's talking to Kim Jong-un is a good idea? Yes, I do. I think it's great. I might have even mentioned this in a previous video. But what I recommend needs to be done, this is the whole thing. And this is what I told the guy. North Korea is like that spoiled little brat child. Okay? They've been this way for decades. If you go back and watch and pay attention, I've done this my entire adult life. I pay attention to world events because when you're in the military, you pay attention to the politics in the country, politics outside the country, and world events. Because at any given moment, a single event could affect your life for the rest of it. Alright, so I have always paid attention for my entire adult life. I actually started back when I was a kid. I always liked watching the evening news. But as a teenager, when I had made the decision I was going in the military, I started paying more attention to what was going on in the world. And I've done it ever since. Even after I got out of the Marine Corps, I absorbed this stuff. And But if you watch over the past many years, even before uh, when Rocket Man's dad was in charge of Korea. All right, Kim Jong Un and Kim Jong Il. I keep getting the two mixed up. They both act like little spoiled brats. Basically, what it is the reason why I say that is because if you watch, when North Korea rattles its sabers, all of a sudden everybody in the world gets around North Korea and they start talking about it, and it's we're going to put sanctions on them and this and that and the other, and then North Korea says, okay, well, we'll back off. And what happened a lot of times, most every time, is the United States would say, well, if you calm down, we'll give a little bit off the sanctions. So they calmed down for a little while. And what it was is they got attention. They got the attention of the world that they were wanting. Once they got the attention, they calmed down. And then later on, when something else happened in the world and everybody's focused on that, North Korea start feeling left out again. Oh, they forgot about me. So they start rattling the saber. And all of a sudden, now everybody watch back. Oh, North Korea, blah, 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 blah. Okay, this has been a cycle for 30 years or more. All right. Well, what happened in North Korea this time was, and of course, especially once North Korea got nuclear capabilities, they really did that. And everybody's kowtowed to them, or were afraid of what they could do. Well, this is what happened. President Trump called Kim Jong-un's bluff. That's what happened. He didn't let him act like a little. He treated him like a redheaded stepchild. He whooped his butt. Okay? That's the only way to say it. When he threw the temper tantrum like they do in the past, instead of everybody coddling him and appeasing him, President Trump whooped him, put him over his knee, whooped his butt, and said, I ain't listening to you. Shut up. Kim says, well, I got a button. Trump says, I got a bigger button. We do. And that button does not necessarily mean nuclear weapons. Okay? Like I told, the reporter asked me, he says, if we went to war with Korea, would we win? That's a no-brainer. Now, plain and simple, I know everybody says, well, China's on their side. China has already told Kim, if you start it, you're on your own. If America fires first, we got your back. That rattled Kim. Because he knew China was serious. China's not going to go to war with the United States if Kim fires the first shot. And me personally, now I don't know what kind of battle plans the Pentagon has. I'm obviously, as a civilian now, I'm not privy to that information. But I know the kind of plans that I would develop, and my plans with the capabilities of our U.S. military and my studies of warfare for the past 40 years, I would wipe North Korea's military off the map, and probably within about a month or so. North Korea's military would be so degraded that they would be nothing more than a police department. And like I told the guy up there at the paper on last Wednesday, that Iran's military, I'd do it in about a week. Okay? So, but what happened is really simple. President Trump did what other presidents should have. He didn't cower when they rattled their saber, when they threatened with this. He stood his ground. And he says, no, I'm not giving in like everybody else has. And basically called Kim's bluff. And Kim was like, oh. Kim Jong-un understands. I think I got that right. Kim Jong-un understands that he cannot win against our military. As a matter of fact, Russia and China also know they can't win against our military. Now, I'm not going to get into reasons why. Okay? but they both understand they cannot win against our military. And so they don't want to do anything that's going to invoke a military reaction from the United States. But that's why Kim stepped down. That's why Kim said, well, let's talk. And Kim's wanting to talk about denuclearization because he's in a situation where he don't have any other choice right now. And he's got to do something. Now, this is what I would recommend. This is the advice I'd give to President Trump. There's two things that I see that could be Kim's purpose for doing this. Number one is he's being honest. He really does want to talk about this. He's really honest about making things right. And so he will negotiate the denuclearization and in order to get sanctions relieved and this and that and the other. The other side of the coin is he's trying to play us and figures if he brings President Trump in, one, he can brag about how he's the only person that got an American president to come talk to him. And he's going to use this as an opportunity to rattle the saber some more. And try to get something for nothing. Me personally, what I would recommend to President Trump is go in there with a negotiation plan for the former, but go in there expecting the latter. And when and listen to what he says, because he's going to show his hand shortly after the talks start on whether he's serious or he's trying to play. And if he's trying to play, I would give him a very quick, short warning and get up and walk out. And leave. That's exactly the way I do it. But we've got to try to make inroads over there. Now, the part with Iran's the only one that really scares me. And the reason is Iran has two goals. First and foremost, in their whole life, the only thing they care about is the destruction of Israel. All right? And I believe in my heart that as soon as Iran develops a nuclear weapon, they already got missiles that can deliver it. It doesn't have to be a pinpoint delivery like our missiles can. All it's got to do is be a missile that can reach from Iran to Israel. Anywhere it lands and detonates a nuclear warhead is going to be a problem. But as soon as they get a nuclear weapon, they're going to launch it against Israel. That's all they care about. And the number two part goes along with that, and is that they want to be the big dog in the Middle East. They want to tower over all of the other Middle Eastern countries. That's why they support terrorism. That's why the terrorist Hezbollah and Hamas and the ones that's in the Houthis or whatever, the ones that's in Yemen right now, I can't remember what they are. They are in a slow process of trying to integrate their terrorist organizations into these nations and upset the nations so that they can, once they have that nuclear weapon, they have a tool now to make these other countries bow down to them. And that purpose is to kick us out of the Middle East. And if the United States is kicked out of the Middle East, it leaves every other nation in the Middle East vulnerable to Iran's military. Okay? And it means the destruction of Israel. So that's why they scare me the most. But they also are the easiest to destroy. Again, I'm not going to say how I would plan it. I've looked on... I've sat down and made up a battle plan. That's what I did in the military. In the infantry, you learn how to develop battle plans. And I've studied that. So, but anyway. Oh, I seen it. No, never mind. I think we'll finish with that today. Just miscellaneous news day.